government. It was great. We didn't know how many people would come. It was 1,500 people that came. So we are creating a momentum for the third action plan. And then what are we going to do for the third action plan that is due to be delivered in July? We have to think on how to get the subnational governments involved. In Argentina, we have provinces. It's the second level of government. So we are doing regional meetings. We're gathering provinces together. We involved the governments of those provinces and civil society, and each province will be having its own open government roundtable to create one commitment, just one, because if not, we won't be able to follow up on that. But each province will have one commitment co-created between their civil society and government in roundtables like the ones we did, like in person with at least 2 meetings to get everybody's idea in and then decide which one is the best or try to create one that brings together all the ideas. And then, of course, we'll be working alongside with the executive branch to create the commitments of the executive branch, and we'll see if we can get the justice and the legislative branch also in. Then we'll go through the public consultation that everybody has to go through, and we'll send the action plan. But I wanted to let civil society from Argentina talk, so please.
Thanks. Well, Nati focused mainly on the third action plan and how we are working on, but I also wanted to go a little bit back on our history, and a short history. Since this is the third, we had 2 previous ones that have to be very sincere, they were very frustrating processes. So the co-creation, even if it was formally expressed as such, it was very frustrating for us. Mainly the first process. I see many faces of civil society that were part of this process as well. And well, we had meetings, but then in the end, the action plan that was presented did not have many points that we had suggested for them to be included. So we had, like, in these years of working, we have improved. We had a change in government, as Nati said. That was at a certain point, it was like a risk we were having when we were in the middle of creating the second action plan. The question was, what will we do? The government said, the previous government would say, well, we can't, it used it as an excuse. We can't commit to certain things because we are not sure we will be part of the future government or not. So we had, like, that time we had to really, well, it was a very risky time, but well, it turned out to be an opportunity, really. And so, well, that would be through going a little bit quickly on the history. Then in the group, maybe we can talk a little bit more on how we worked on that frustration. But another thing that I want to point out of the third action plan is the working with provinces. That's quite important and quite, well, we are a very big country with lots of differences inside, and to include those voices is very important, and not just only the government and organizations that are based in Argentina, that are based in Buenos Aires, and have the possibility of meeting and of working on these issues. So the idea of including other organizations that are based in different cities of our countries is a very good, a very positive thing to point out, and we are very happy with it.
Our first challenge we had was to take the process outside of San Jose. As a small country, absolutely the opposite of Argentina, we are concentrated in the small city of San Jose, and the first action plan was not only quite focused on on digital government, but it was made most of the process in an office in San Jose, not even a consultation exactly. So we had the challenge to take the consultation process outside of San Jose, which as civil society, we had the support of IWUS, and we were able to make it. We had, it was like a tour. We felt like a music tour or something like that. We were from town to town in about 17 places. We were having meetings, which were the biggest one of about 12 and the smallest 4, but it was the first step and it had to be taken. We tried to get people to turn complaints into proposals. So we were not talking to them about open government. Only we want to talk about open government. Nobody wants to talk about open government. So they want to complain. So we wanted to think, okay, what's the most difficult situation you are facing here? And say, okay, we have a problem with this, with the bridge that has to be built. Okay, open government will not make you the bridge. Will help you to get involved, to create the context where the bridge will be built. Okay? So it was important to let them understand what is open government, what can do, what opportunities the open government can open for them. It will not solve their problems, it will bring them spaces to help them solve their own problems. And this idea of focusing open government as a proposal technique, we help them in the meetings after we explain the basic concepts. We help them to propose small commitments. Of course, they were not smart, quite tuned-up commitments, but they were proposals. We gathered 37 proposals from different places of the country. We put in a website where we made small chronicle of each process, and the commitments were placed there so people would know what we were working on. And there was a final meeting for consolidation and tuning up of the commitments. There we had more information, and then we explained to people, okay, this is what we need, this is smart. So we took all these 37 proposals and tried to get together the most similar ones, and at the end there was a resulting of 15 commitments that we presented to the government. It was a different case of co-creation because we did our work first and they did their work separately. It was fun because at the beginning we tried to do the process together. I think we had some doubts, and it was legitimate to have some doubts because what they fear and with what we fear also, it was that if we came with the government, they will not understand. So you are government or you are not government? I'm not clear on that. So we weren't absolutely alone, and that helped the people to be more confident to talk about their own problems. It was a more familiar environment. And at the end, we got our proposals to the commission, which was established, and it was fun because people asked us what will happen with these commitments, and we were absolutely honest, we don't know. In the commission, they will have to think what they will do. I was not aware that I would be in the commission. And then when I got there, I said, oh my God, now I have to know what we will do. And Gabriel will tell you what happened next.
As Ignacio told you, we work separately. And we have a doubt, and we were concerned about what about the sustainability of this process? What about open government when my government go out? So we decided to create a reformers network. And we included not only executive power institutions contact point, we also included as a legislative assembly, Supreme Court, our electoral institution, the ombudsman, the General Republic Controller, our public enterprises. So we have like 36 contact points in this reformers network. And we wanted to put it that name because they feel empowered.
Tomás will help out sort of describing the co-governance model that we have in Mexico. So we are in our third National Action Plan process. So when we started, one of the first questions we had was, so what have we learned from version 1 and 2? What have we gotten right? What have we gotten wrong? And one of the key issues that we kept telling ourselves was it wasn't really clear where the impact was. We knew about that the commitments were set, the activities related to the commitments were discussed, then they were complied with, but what were we actually achieving by working on this action plan? So we did a sort of case of reverse engineering and decided to focus on where we wanted to be in the long term, and then translate that into commitments that would then make it into an action plan. And so let's say our baseline was the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. So that was our starting point. So we took the 17 Sustainable Development Goals that, as you know, is speaking about a 15-year trajectory. So it goes way beyond the 2-year now. And we started with those 17s and asked everyone. So we did a public consultation. So what matters most to you? So we asked people, out of those 17, where should we focus? We know all of them are important. We know the country and, well, all the 190 plus countries from the UN system committed to them, but which ones are we going to tackle from the open government perspective? So out of those 17, the public consultation helped us narrow down into 6. So we took those 6 and we did a 3-phase process. So our first phase, we called it Jornadas Abiertas, or open sessions. And there we invited everyone that was interested in participating. You didn't have to be a specialist, you didn't really have to be even an organized citizen inside an organization. You just had to be interested in being a part of this process. And so we developed one Jornada Abierta per goal, and through a deliberative process, we had around 200 and something, 200 plus people participating in these 6 Jornadas Abiertas, and helped us narrow down into 2-year goals. So we went from the 15-year objective to a 2-year goal that we all agreed upon was an important goal to work on from the open government perspective. Then the next phase was what we call mesas de trabajo. So it was basically a setting kind of like this, where we did invite, now that we knew the topic we were going to work on and the particular focus that we were going to be committed to, then we invited all the organizations and the public, the civil servants that had to do with that particular issue. So it wasn't really a specialist forum, but it was really those that know the issue and can try to find a better solution for that issue. And through a deliberative process, we translated those 2-year objectives into what we call now the National Action Plan commitment. And that commitment, the idea was to be a bold commitment, a broad commitment that would then unfold in particular actions that then could be measurable and we could develop indicators for. So we finished that process around September, and we ended up with we went from 6 goals to 7 commitments. Because the one in public services, we decided that it was too important to split into, or to combine into one. So we did 1 for water and 1 for access to health. But after the tables, we now have our 7 goals and the action lines for each of the goals, and now we're working on the work plan, and that's a process that is now concerning organized civil society that is going to follow up the whole implementation process, and those in government that are part of that process. To say, I mean, not as successfully as Argentina or as Costa Rica, but we did try to get everyone involved, not just the executive. So the whole process happened with the Senate. We invited the Senate and the different commissions in charge of the different issues that had to do with each of the commitments to participate in helping us figure out because if we are thinking about long-term vision, then it is not only the today's framework or today's legal framework that can allow us to get to that vision. So we needed also to think creatively what laws needed to be changed, what the judicial needs to change, what subnational would need to bring to the table, and that we're still working at. So we did. They did participate in creating the goals, in setting particular commitments for the legislative, and now we are trying to take that into actual commitments that we can put a timeline to in the next 2 years. And for that, we have a particular governing body in Mexico we call the Tripartite Secretariat that Tomas will speak more broadly about.
So yes, in Mexico we have this, the name is somehow weird in Spanish, is Secretariado Técnico Tripartita, which is like 3 parts technical secretariat, trilateral technical secretariat, which is composed basically on the representation of the government, which has been shifting from the Ministry of Public Function to, beginning from Foreign Affairs to the Ministry of Public Function, then to the Office of the Presidency, and now is transiting back to the Ministry of Public Function, where Gobierno is now. And the other part of the Secretariat is the autonomous office for granting the access rights in Mexico, which is the Instituto for Access to Information, the Institute for Access to Information, INAI. And the third part is us, the civil society group. So this Secretariat has very simple and somehow informal rules, but that have allowed us to sort of work somehow easily, smoothly. Is the decisions that happen around open government in Mexico have to pass through this technical secretariat. The decisions should be, as long as possible, by consensus. Only in extreme cases, for majority of votes. And the third one, I can, well, sort of. And then, yeah, and so we decide in the broad, and for the meetings to happen, the three parts have to be present. As simple as that. So we've been working on this scheme for the last 3.5 years, and this scheme came out because at the beginning no one, well, you know this in your country, no one really knew what open government was really about, or the rules, or what we should work with open government at home. And so we had some significant approaches, and we as civil society felt that our voice at the beginning was requested, but in the very first action plan was not taken into account. So we really felt bad, and so we showed our disagreement, and we came out with this scheme for working all together. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it, because we felt that was not, it was useless for us to participate if our opinions were not taken into account. So, but at the end, this has worked. And we have many challenges. Mexico is, as many other countries, big country, very diverse. We tried to, for this action plan, to make it, yes, more participatory, which I think we have achieved. We commitments that are looking for real impact on the people on the ground, not just websites and data sets or databases. The other thing that we tried, but we couldn't make it, was the reality was superior to us, is we tried to have a regional and sub-regional approach, like having forums into the country, like Costa Rica, but we couldn't. It was too complicated, too expensive, and so we tried once, and it didn't work. And so the methodology was new, because we were trying to align, as Guillermo said, this with the Sustainable Development Goals, which is also, so it has to be more participatory, more impact design, and with SDGs, and with a regional and sub-regional approach. That was anyway, so the Secretariat so far has worked so good. I mean, we have had some tough moments, no? So that's part of the job. Who hasn't? We understand that sometimes our positions are not so easy to take on by the government, and so we hope that they understand that their positions sometimes cannot be taken for granted, or in the same as civil society. We, for example, the Institute for Access to Information was not necessarily as responsive as the other two parts were. For example, we were also trying to broaden the constituency by bringing the legislative branch and the judiciary, and that was the job of the autonomous organ, which they didn't do. So we don't have the full agreement of the parliament, which is difficult as well, because I don't know in your countries, but in our countries, you cannot find one person to compromise on behalf of the whole legislative branch. So now then we reduced our expectations to having the help, yes, of the legislative branch to do some of the reforms or in standards or in rules or laws that will help the commitments come true. And we're not speaking anymore about open parliament, but how the parliament can help with specific actions on each of the commitments to help out. Yeah, and we are still lacking one last issue that we didn't have time at the end to do it before Paris, which is the extractive industry table that we hope to come out with another commitment that would make a commitment.